Alright, so welcome back everybody. So for this video, I'm going to show you guys how to play Nimalia. Now Nimalia is kind of like a puzzle game of sorts, because you're going to be trying to build out a bunch of different layers of cards, and you'll be putting cards on top of each other, and you'll be covering up animals, and you're going to want to sort of like have animals and certain habitats in certain areas to score victory points, basically. So let me get started here, showing you guys how to play. Now, first of all, there's 5 rounds in the game, okay? 5 rounds. And each round will have 3 cards in it. So each player will get 3 of these cards here, okay? Each player will have one of these. They will choose one of these 3 cards to play, and then play out that card in front of them, okay? After they've played that card, the 2 cards they didn't play will then get passed to the next player. If in a 2-player game, you just pass it to, obviously, player 2. And then player 2, they'll play their card out, and then they will give me their 2 cards that they didn't use. And then I will look at their 2 cards that they originally had, and I'll play one of them on my turn, and then hand them the other card I didn't play, for instance. So you'll just continue this until you have no more cards to play. Once that happens, that means that the round is over, and you will then go to the scoring phase of the game. Now, what's the scoring phase of the game? Well, we have 4 different scorecards here: blue, green, yellow, and red. And each round, you'll score depending on what round it is. So if you're in round 1, you will score the blue and the green card, and hence the 1 round marker here is only touching the blue and the green with a line, right? In round 2, you'll only score the green card and the yellow card for points. During round 3, you'll only score the red card and the blue card. During round 4, however, you will score the green card, the yellow card, and the red card, seeing the red line there that goes and obviously touches the 4. And then in the last round, you will score the blue card, the red card, and you'll also score the yellow card over here as well. And then you'll tally up, obviously, your points in the round 5, and whoever has the most points will win. Now, how do you score points? Well, first of all, let's zoom out so we can look at the playing field a bit. So here we have this, we're going to have this playing field. And on our first turn, we're just going to pick a card and we're going to play it, okay? But then let's say these 2 cards were handed to me by player 2. I will then pick one of these 2 cards to play next. Now, maybe I will want to do something, maybe I'll play that first card like this with, so I can see these 2 animals better here. But maybe I'll play, like, for instance, this card here. Maybe, like, for instance, this, okay? And then let's say this 3rd card was handed to me by player 2. Then I could, let's see, play it. Well, there's a penguin here, so you know what? I'll play the penguin right here, just like that. Okay, then we go to scoring phase. So, how do we score points? Well, there's about 11 objective cards in this game. So we're playing with only 4 of the 11 objective cards. So they each score differently. So let's start talking about them. First, let's talk about the 2 we would score in the first round, blue and green. With this card here, these yellow boxes indicate a savanna terrain, a savanna habitat. And you'll notice that there are 2 savanna blocks here that don't score any points at all. But then you'll notice that all of these yellow boxes here are connected. And so they each give you 2 points. And so it's all of them in combination for a full score. So, for instance, if I had this exact number, it doesn't even have to be, this is just an example. It doesn't have to be in this particular pattern or anything, which confused me at first because I thought it did, but it doesn't. So for instance, if I had 5 yellow or savanna cards touching each other into one big group, I'd score 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 points for the blue card, for instance. So it's basically the largest savanna habitat that you have in your grid that will score you points. And you'll get 2 points for every box that makes up that grid. Okay? Now over here we have penguins. So let's see if I can zoom in on the penguins better. Or let's see. There we go. So here you'll notice that there are 2 penguins in this column here. And you'll notice there's an X, meaning no points at all. But you'll see that this penguin here, it's by itself in this column. And you score 3 points. So basically, for every penguin that's by itself in a column, you score 3 points. Meaning, if there were penguins here, this penguin would still score, even though they're here. Because it's only counting your columns. So for every column that you only have 1 penguin, for every one, you get three victory points. So that's how that's going to score. Now let's look at the yellow and the red one and see how they would score. So for instance, these are gorillas right here. And so these gorillas, these 2 for instance, are both touching water. And you'll notice on the scorecard they each give you 2 points. But this gorilla isn't next to water. It might be next to it diagonally, but it still doesn't count. It has to be connected to it up, down, left, right, okay? That's where it has to be connected. And if it's connected to just one water habitat, then you will score 2 points. And it can even share, so like this gorilla and this gorilla are both touching the same water habitat. It does not matter. They just have to touch one water habitat to score points. So for every gorilla that's touching a water habitat, with this particular yellow card, you're going to score 2 points each. And then with this red card, it's contingent on who has the largest river. Some of these terrain cards have rivers. This one does not. This one does not. But this one does with the otter. It has a river. And so you'll notice that the river is diagonal. So for the longest river scores, whichever player has the longest river is going to score points, basically, okay? And they're going to score 5 points if they have the longest river. If you're playing a 3 or 4 player game, then the player who has the second longest river will score 2 points. Now, if you tie, let's say you tie for the highest score. Let's say you're just playing a 2-player game, and you tie for having the highest river. You both get 5 victory points for the tie. However, that could potentially be the same if these were giving minus points. This particular red card does not give minus points, but there are some that do give minus points. And if you get a tie on an objective card that gives you minus points, that means you also share the minus points. You both get the same amount of minus points. So that's something to keep an eye on scoring purposes. So let's just kind of, and then there's one other thing. So when you take your turn, so let's zoom back out here. When you take your turn, and obviously the first card doesn't matter because it's the first card, but when you take your turn, obviously you're going to cover up, at least one block you're going to cover up, right? So, for instance, let's say I did something like this. You'll notice that I have a grid of 4 I have a grid going down by 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I have a grid of 3 right now. 1, 2, 3. You can only have a grid of 6 to 6 up to. So you can't have like 7 columns and 5 rows, for instance. It has to be up to 6 columns and 6 rows, okay? So, 6 rows and 6 columns is the max. So it does allow you, so in the beginning of the game, it will allow you to kind of variate where basically the end of your grid is going to go. It's going to vary, obviously, per player, depending on how they're placing them. But it does give you some, maneuverability. But once you get to 6, then you're stuck at that amount. Okay? So that's basically how it's going to work. So now that's how to play the game. So maybe I'll do a demonstration of some gameplay, perhaps, as well. So I'll do another video, and I'll play gameplay of the video, and we'll see how that goes. So if you guys want to watch the gameplay to get better understand the game if you need to, I'll just go ahead and do that in the next video.